Hello, everybody. Um, Welcome to this episode of Data Squad. For those of you who do not know, Data Squad is a program where Mike, Matt, and I are joined by experts from the industry to walk through solutions to your big data challenges. So for this episode, we'll be going through automating data access management with ALTR's Snowflake native app. And more specifically, we're going to use the native app to automatically govern tables created by dbt. Just a little more information, Data Squad is meant to be interactive, so questions and collaboration are encouraged. So if you have a question, please feel free to stick it in the chat. And with that, why don't we get started with introductions? My name is Ethan Newman. I'm an applications engineer here at ALTR. That means I get to work on projects in R&D, like the native app, ALTR's native app, for example, as well as integrations with other products. Mike, I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Hi, my name is Mike Kravik. I'm a sales engineer at ALTR, and I help customers be successful with ALTR, and it's typically with Snowflake as well. I will pass it over to Matt.
Yeah, I'm Matt. I'm on the same team as Mike, working in the pre-sales technical role, and I'm actually based out of the Bay Area.
And Jim?
Oh, hi. My name is Jim Pan. I'm a product manager from Snowflake. I'm responsible for the native application framework, and I'm based out of Toronto. Very excited to be here.
Great. And let's start off with a quick poll. So for those of you familiar with ALTR and Snowflake, so you just say, I'm familiar with Snowflake, I'm familiar with both, I'm just familiar with ALTR. So just put that in the chat, let us know. That'll help us guide the content because we want to make sure that we're going at the pace that makes sense for you. This is going to be a practical session too, so this is going to get really interesting really fast. Okay, so hey, Ethan or Jim, do you want to just start off with just a quick high level about Snowflake, just in case people aren't familiar with Snowflake?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So Snowflake is, we have the data cloud built on top of our proprietary I guess our software as a service platform, really built from the ground up for data security, for governance, scalability in mind. And we've, of course, grown over the last many years to building out a lot of the capabilities through the various workloads, including I feel like I saw one of the slides recently about Snowpark, for data engineering, data science, application development, as well as our data exchange. All of the different capabilities in our workloads now are available in Snowflake. And the native application framework is the ability for customers now, or providers like yourself, to be able to build new application capabilities, to package all of that and distribute it through our marketplace. Distribute it through the marketplace, monetize it there, and have that send out to and deployed to the consumers directly. What's really great about the native application framework, I kind of want to just talk about that a little bit, is the fact that it has all the benefits of scalability, data governance, data security that Snowflake provides out of the box, and then the data never has to leave the platform, which is really a key benefit of building on top of Snowflake, using the capabilities that's available today. Back to you. Thank you so much.
All right, great. Hey, Ethan, how about we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and edit my screen share here. All right. So I just want to give a little bit of background of what we're trying to do here for those of you who are not familiar with, number one, ALTR's native app, as well as dbt. So ALTR's native app will allow you to do pretty much anything you can do through ALTR's UI using SQL. So for example, if you wanted to mask a column or a set of columns, or configure RBAC, you can do that with a line of SQL instead of going through ALTR's UI to do that. So that's just a quick little summary of our native app. dbt as well is, I'm not an expert, but from what I've learned recently, dbt specializes in the T and the transform in ELT. So it's good at transforming data that's already loaded into your warehouse. It also does a bunch of other cool things, like enables your analysts to work more like software engineers and collaborate on projects with version control. But we're not going to cover that in our demo, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. And if you're not an expert in dbt, don't worry, we'll be just using it for an extremely simple use case. We're just going to pretty much do a join on two tables using dbt, and then use ALTR's native app to govern that resulting join. Does anyone have anything else to add there before I get started on this demo?
No, I don't. That looks great. How about you, Jim?
Nope.
All
I'm
right.
very excited to see this.
Yeah, let's get started.
Perfect. Awesome. So on Data Squad, we like to, I think I froze. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. And your video just came back on again.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. So we like to start from the ground up on our Data Squad. So most of this I'm starting fresh. I've already added a database and a couple tables to Snowflake, but I'm gonna first step one is creating a new dbt account, which I'm just gonna load in some or input some information here.
Yeah, it looks like we're doing the old new email trick to get a new trial going.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, almost there. Perfect. So the next couple steps is just going through this dbt setup. I'm going to connect a database here. Gonna just click start developing. Okay, hopefully that won't be a problem, but I guess we'll find out. So it looks like it logged me into an old account. Let me try one more time. Huh, okay.
Well, while Ethan's doing that, hey, Jim, do you have any other use cases where people are looking at using the native app for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe a little bit more background about the native application. One of the biggest thing I think that Snowflake has really revolutionized is the ability to share data securely without data copying, the zero kind of data movement type of data sharing that's really unique to Snowflake. We build on top of that data share to allow not only additional logic that that you can build, such again, for example, using Java, Python, including Snowpark to do any kind of data science or data engineering work. You can also, of course, create local tables directly on the consumer side. That's some of the the direct capabilities that you could use in native application. What we've done is built on top of that data share capability, allowing you to package it up and distribute it in the same marketplace where you will find those data shares. Some of the common use cases, we're definitely seeing a lot of interest in clean rooms, for example, which is, for those of you that are not familiar on what a clean room is, it's really the ability for multiple parties to be able to share data insights securely without necessarily jeopardizing the data, without sharing the actual underlying data. Sounds a little bit magical, and then but there's a lot of information available from Snowflake on YouTube that you could find out about, or as well as in our documentation. The entire focus is that a lot of the clean rooms are, well, I guess all of the clean rooms that we've been working on are built directly on top on our native application framework.
Mm-hmm.
I see that this is back up, and maybe we'll continue on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks for that. I really appreciate that, Jim. And where are you now, Ethan? I've got to be honest. I wasn't paying attention to what
No
you were.
worries.
I was,
So
I was with Jim talking about native apps.
as you should be. I got a new account created, so there was a little bit of weirdness there where it logged me into an old account, but I've got a new one created, so we should be all set here. So I'm just gonna connect this to my Snowflake account, enter a database for the output of DBT, as well as we'll choose a warehouse here. How about demo warehouse? I'm gonna input some of my credentials. All right, perfect. I'll give it a test. There we go. So as I mentioned before, DBT allows analysts to work like software engineers. So they do have like version control and things like that. We're just going to use their built-in DBT managed repository. There's a lot of customization you can do with this, but we're kind of limited on time here, so I'm just going to glance over this. And then I can also invite users, but I'm going to go ahead and skip that step.
Sure.
Now we can get started. All right. The very first thing I'm going to do is delete some of their examples here. Since we're starting fresh, I don't want our workspace to get cluttered up. Just give it a second to load. Okay, perfect. Initialize our project. Okay, here's this example model. Just gonna rip out of here, as well as in the configuration for the project. I'm gonna take out this example model. And we are now good to start fresh. So I'm gonna start by creating a new SQL file. It's just gonna be called join. We're just gonna do one join in the SQL file. So it's going to be pretty simple. At the very top here, I'm going to specify a bit of config information. So I'm going to say that from this join, I want it to create a new table. I don't want it to be a transient table.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to paste in our join here, but I'll walk through it. So the join, let's down a little. The join is on these two tables you see in Snowflake on our right. We have a customers table and an orders table. And the customers table has these three columns. It has a customer ID, as well as a first and a last initial here, first name and a last initial. And our orders table has that same customer ID, as well as a date of an order, an ID of an order, as well as like things like a status. So we can use this join here with DBT to gain some valuable insights from these two tables. So we're just going to select the columns from our two tables here, going to grab the ID, first name, last name, order date, and user ID. And then we'll do our join here, which is this final table. That'll grab the customer ID, the customer name, as well as their first order date, their most recent order date, and their total number of orders. That's really all this join is here. It'll create this new table with the select statement, and it's pretty simple. So I'll go ahead and run this so you can see what it looks like without ALTR on this. So I'll just hit dbt run. Give it just a few seconds. So that'll create in this dbt output database that we specified. It'll create this new table with our join. Oh, let me make sure I'm in the right. It's dbt output. dbt Newman. Let's give this a refresh. I'm gonna run this one more time as well. There we go. I can see a customers table. Oh, sorry, that's public. Oh, yes, sorry, we got to configure this this file a little more. This is our configuration file. We want to tell it to run this join. Let me see if I can. Oh, sorry. I think we just have to save this file and we should be good to go. One more time. This is the danger of doing a live demo. Sometimes something will go wrong.
Exactly. Stuff is on fire.
It's like going camping. You never know what kind of weather you're gonna get.
Yeah, exactly. All right. There we go. That looks a little more promising. Let's give this a refresh. I'll do a select here. Looks like we have storms. Okay, our table is called join project. There we go. So we got this join working. It's got all of our information we specified in DBT, first name, last name. But let's say we wanted to automate some protection and governance on some of these columns. So for this example, we're going to lock down some first and last names, but we could do this with any sort of column, social security numbers, phone numbers, whatever sensitive data you have here. And we can automate that with ALTR's native app. So that'll be done in our project configuration. We can specify this a post hook, which just means that it'll run the SQL commands after building our models. And we're going to do a couple things here. I'll copy and paste them to save a little bit of time here. But we're going to first call our native app. So this is the SQL command to call our native app to add data to ALTR. So we're just going to add our sensitive column, this first name column, and this is now the join table, project table. It's going to grab from this dbt enum schema, this first name column, and this is the nickname of it in ALTR. So that's step one here. Step two is now going to be create in ALTR what's called a lock. Now a lock is just a grouping of roles and columns, and as well as associating a masking policy with those columns. So you can say I want the account admin to be able to see this first name column, but I want them to have a full mask on it. I could also say that I want, for this example, I'm going to use the role analyst. So the analyst needs to see this first name column to do, I don't know, some analyst work. So we're going to allow them access to that column.
Yeah, and a lot of the use cases for this is when, especially for the account admins, where the account admin has, they're maintaining the database, but they really shouldn't be able to see some of the sensitive data. Things like names are a really good example of that. So by what Ethan is doing with creating these policies through locks, can create an environment where the account admin can access this table, but only see the sensitive data in a mass format. So the way I always like to put it is the account admin is relieved of the burden of accessing sensitive data. Don't have to worry about being the person called into the room in the event of an issue happening. So it's always a good thing when you're not privy to it.
Yep. Okay, so this next step, we're gonna call alternative add a lock. We're gonna give that lock a name. We're going to say the account admin can access this dbt first name column, but it'll be masked data. Anybody outside of this lock the query will error out because they're not configured to have access. So it's a least privilege access model. But we do want the analyst to have access here, so we can add one more line for this, one more call to ALTR. We're going to add another lock here, and we're going to say analyst has access to this DBT first name column, but with no mask. And now we're going to hit save this time. Perfect.
And
Go ahead.
before you go ahead, Ethan, a quick question. So we have these two locks. One is essentially a restrictive lock for the account admin. They're going to wind up seeing the data masks, and the other one is permissive, where the analyst is able to see the data in the clear.
Mhm.
You can add multiple roles and user groups to these locks, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So if I wanted to add, I don't know, sysadmin, I just do comma sysadmin.
Yep.
That's really all there is to it.
Okay, so yeah, then the net of that is this. The really cool thing is two. One is with Alter, now you can start creating an environment where you can proactively go and set policy on your data, on all your data, so that people will be able to access it, and they'll do it safely, because if they shouldn't see the data, they'll see something masked, as opposed to having to request the data and all of those other things that you'd have to do to get access to data.
Exactly. Yep. We make it easy. Okay. Now that we've got these 3 calls here, we're going to add the data to Alter and then add 2 locks. We'll go ahead and run this. So I've got dbt run, hit enter. It's going to take, go ahead, Mike.
I was say, while this is running, the normal way you would do this in Alter is, we have REST APIs, which are great. REST APIs are really easy to use, but they're definitely not as accessible as SQL, and definitely not as accessible as you can do them now that Snowflake has created these native apps to be able to access capabilities like this.
Exactly, and many tools can't make API calls. Like, for example, dbt, I don't believe can make API calls, but it can execute SQL. So this is a way to automate data governance and data protection just with SQL.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, and if I could point out one thing, one of the key things for providers like yourself and many others is that you want to protect your intellectual property as well. You're building all this code and you want to distribute it, but you don't necessarily want to give it away and make it visible like a normal database deployment. And so distributing compute capabilities like a store procedure through native applications also gives the IP protection, so that the source code, the implementation details are safe within your organization and not necessarily leaking out to the public.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to encapsulate that and kind of protect it and lock it down from other people using it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So our run here is finished. So if all has gone well, we can see that I'm the account admin role. We've defined in our lock here that the account admin role should see this first name column with a full mask. So let's go ahead and run this.
Drum roll, please.
Run the select. There we go. We've got that first name column mask. But the analyst should see this in the clear, no problem. Perfect.
So looks like we have a couple of questions in the chat, because I want to make sure we get to those.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Anthony's asking, does it leverage tag-based masking in Snowflake under the hood? And the answer is yes, it can. We're not doing that right now, but one of the options in Alter is to implement locks on tags, which would wind up being groups of columns. And
exactly.
John is asking, is this governance as code? I think it can be. Ethan, I'd love to hear your perspective on that one.
I would say it's really hard to say, because like you can do it through our UI with no code. This is just SQL calls that do the exact same thing that our UI does. So it's kind of like a more abstract governance as code. Like, you're not writing any masking policies yourself. Alter's configuring all those masking policies. So it's a bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, so you can probably say yes, but that would not be the only way you can achieve this with Alter. And then
exactly.
If we have time, Ethan, do you think it would make sense just to show how to do what we did with the UI, which is our UI is fantastic, but it's definitely not data squad worthy because this is really easy, really easy to do. But just to give you the idea of what the data policy looks like, and just open up the lock. And those are the two locks that Ethan has created, and just pick one of them. And as opposed to having the code, this is what it looks like in our UI, where the account admin looking at the DBT first name column is in full mask. You can also, why don't you just click on add another, and then I don't know if you have any.
I think I do have some tags in here. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so here are some Snowflake tags. So we've imported object tags, and you can deploy the governance using the tags model. And once you update those tags for new columns, you can use DBT to bring those columns into Alter, and they're automatically complying to that policy that you've created before.
Yep. And I wanted to mention, going back to DBT real quick, you can get even more heavily into the automation here. So instead of having these parameters hard coded in here, you can use variables. I know how DBT has a lot of capability with that. So you can go all out on that automation. I just want to point that out, but we only have 30 minutes, so we don't exactly have the time to get into it here.
Yeah, I got another question from John though. Are the capabilities in the native app parity with the UI?
So the answer is yes, they do pretty much the same thing. Almost anything you can do in the UI, you can do through our native app. That is because the native app leverages our API. Our UI does the exact same thing. So anything you can do with our UI goes through the API. Same thing with our native app. Our native app just makes calls to our API.
Yeah, John, our API documentation, the Swagger page is up on docs.alter.com, so you can definitely see what's happening there to see what the full complement of the API is. Our UI, so this web UI actually uses the API, so by default, the UI is complying with the API. Not knowing how, since this is, we're just starting with native apps, how people are going to really wind up using it. Ethan, feel free to comment on this one. I think people are going to wind up pushing configuration to Alter is going to be the primary use case. So, creating locks, adding locks, but some of the other things that our APIs can do is actually output information as well. And I'm not really sure if people would wind up using that for, something like DBT.
Another very cool thing our native app is going to be able to do in the near future is make it extremely easy to get connected to Alter. So whenever you install the native app, there's an install script that runs, so we can provision you an account just from you installing the native app. We can, create your service user, things like that. We can automate through that install script.
Yeah, and it looks like we're getting close to time. Where's my? There we go. So, and hey, Jim, I'll pass it over to you. Any final comments or thoughts or things you like to say?
This is a fantastic demo, really. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and see what you've done with the native application framework. I mean, considering the fact that we've been in private preview for a little bit, I'm just super impressed on the kind of capabilities that you are integrating with ALTR. You're able to make that available and integrate it or run it directly off of DBT. It's really a fantastic example. We are planning to bring it to public preview in the near future. I don't have specific dates for the public as of yet, but it's just fantastic to see what you guys have done with native application framework.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Looks like we are right on time again. So if you want to close it out, Ethan, I'll just want to say thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jim, for hopping on and helping out. Thank you, Matt, for coming. Ethan, you want to close it out?
Yeah, absolutely. As Mike said, thanks everybody for coming and asking questions. We'll have more data squads in the future, so please feel free to sign up for more if you're interested in solving some more data problems.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.